Today we're looking at my mood tracker because I have updated it and I'm pretty happy with it. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to talk about a few things leading up to now with the update and then talk a bit about today and how I feel. This is like an updated look to it. This is how it looks right now and I quite like this. It's much more visually pleasing. You know, I think it looks nicer the way it is currently. So this is me from a little bit in the future. I just realised that I hadn't clarified some of the ratings, so I'm just going to quickly go over that just to remind people. So when these ratings are blue, they're level of depression. My mood is low. A 4 means just a general feeling of depression, low motivation is kind of a thing there, and you don't really feel happy or like good about most things, you know. The 5, which we see a lot of 5s, I think it's the most common thing, is general feeling of content. You're not depressed, but you're not like happy about things. You're just okay. You know, these are your okay days. The 6 is when you're feeling joy and happiness, where you're feeling good, you're probably a bit more motivated, feel a bit more confident about yourself, these kind of things. I will talk about the 3 and the 7 later on. First things first, the last time I did a video talking like this about stuff was the 20th of February. Where I talked a bit about how I got through this particular period here from the 22nd of January up until that date on the 20th, and it was about how things that I did to limit how much my depression was affecting me and to stop my depression from taking hold. Now, this time we're talking more about this period all the way up to today. It's a longer period and it's a very different period. There's nothing really I can take note on these days. Generally my mood started to drop really hard and there wasn't a lot that I could do about it. I was feeling I was beginning to feel lonely. My self-esteem was dropping. I was not feeling great, and I started drinking a little bit more in this period where you see these blue dates. So another day to note here is the 26th of February. This was quite a big date. This was the last date of my radiotherapy. So I finished my cancer treatment on the 26th of February. And I was feeling quite good. Like generally I was feeling good, but I gave this a 5 rating because what I was feeling wasn't to do with my general mood. I was feeling kind of weird. It felt strange, like ending things. And I think I spoke about this in a couple of shorts that I've done in that time, but it generally felt weird. And then I went out and I celebrated. So I did way too much drinking through celebration, and that 100% was a huge influence on these next 2 days afterwards where I had these 4 ratings. So yeah, on the 26th my radiotherapy ended, I celebrated, I drank a lot, and I generally did feel good, but it wasn't like a crazy good mood. It's kind of complicated to explain, and that's part of why I wanted to expand this, because this mood tracker, I have learned over especially this later period that it doesn't show everything. It doesn't show a full story. So yeah, I had these 2 days of 4s where I was feeling depressed, feeling low mood. Alcohol is a depressant. If you don't know that, then it's good to be aware that alcohol is a depressant. It might feel good when you're drinking, but in general it will bring your mood down. If I remember correctly, I'm not going to just go away and do some research because, you know, that's not who I am right now. We're not doing that. Normally I would, but I'm not doing that right now. I think alcohol limits your serotonin production, or it limits how much dopamine you can produce. It's one of the two. It might not even be one of those, but it's something along those lines. It generally reduces your ability to produce happy chemicals in your brain. After that, we've kind of got this period here where things get low, really low. I was feeling really, really shit over this period of time, and there's no dancing around that. I remember being going to a bar with some friends, and people were asking me, you know, who haven't seen me for a while, how I was feeling about things now that things are over and stuff. I just said to them, I can't lie, like mentally it's shit. Like mentally I'm in a really bad place right now. Physically I'm doing great, but mentally it's difficult. It's not a good place to be. So the next thing I want to talk about is this day here, this number 3. So, because we haven't really spoken too much about this kind of rating before, because since I've been doing this year, I haven't had a day that's been a 3. So let's go over what that means. A 3 is quite a difficult and deep feeling of depression. Like, this is where, in my mind, kind of to level it out, suicidal thoughts become a thing. Not in the sense that I'm planning to do something. I'm not generally thinking about it all the time, but it's where intrusive thoughts become suicidal. So I'm sure if you've experienced this, you will understand it. But for those who haven't experienced it, what that is like, you could be walking across a bridge and your brain just goes, what if we jump off? And you don't necessarily have to be this depressed to have those thoughts, but that's kind of where those become more common, and they just keep happening. You know, it's things where you're walking, say, on the underground, and you're like, oh, I could jump into the tracks, and you're not like thinking about doing it, but your brain automatically comes up with those thoughts, and that's where, like, I feel like that comes in here when I'm feeling like this. When I'm feeling a 4, I'm just generally depressed. I'm not suicidal in any way. The other thing to note about a 3 is that I would probably say this is where maybe people start to think about self-harm as well, just in general. But as I've mentioned before in previous videos, I've been fortunate enough never to experience thoughts of self-harm. I've never wanted to do it. I think at an early age I was able to kind of indoctrinate myself to not think like that. I don't know how to explain it, but I guess I did some kind of unhealthy coping mechanism to stop me from feeling that. Maybe one day in the future when I'm able to clarify that a bit better, I will talk about it in a different video. But yeah, so in general, this is where the thoughts of doing something bad to yourself start to just come in and start to take effect. I never did anything bad to myself on that time. I can't remember if I drank that day. I think there's probably a good chance I did, or that I did the day before. But I can't, off the top of my head right now, remember if I did drink that day. We will get on to the subject of drinking alcohol later, as it's part of what I've updated here. So, then what happens? On the 10th of March, I have this mood flip, and I made some videos in this period talking about this. So, I made a video talking about how happiness is scary, and how it's like difficult to deal with in this moment, and that happened on this day, and it was perfectly timed because I went from feeling really depressed to feeling good, like happy. There was a trigger. There is an event which I'm not going to talk about, like specific personal events, but something happened on the 10th that made me feel good. I was feeling happy, confident, and generally had a good outlook on how things were about to go over the next few days, and they did. Um, and this was very confusing for me. Like, it was very difficult to deal with. And over this period, that's where I begin to realise that I need to update this mood tracker to track more things. And again, we'll get to that in a minute, because on the 16th, I experienced a 7 for the first time since doing this mood tracker. And that also includes last year when I started making this. When this mood tracker was made, it was probably February or March 2025. I wasn't able to keep up with it during my battle with cancer. Like, this hasn't it hasn't been used in that period. This is the longest I've been able to use it consistently. But when I think about sevens, like, this feeling is incredible, and I could tell something was different, and it opened my eyes to how I can rate 5, 6s, and 7s better, because I haven't had so much experience with feeling these levels of happiness over the last few years, and probably in a long time. It has been difficult for me to clarify what those good feelings mean, what they are, and how to describe them, and how to identify where these things sit. I've talked about it a few times in different videos, but this 7 is a very intense happiness. From my understanding, it's euphoria. You know, everything feels incredible. You're quite confident. You're probably very motivated. And in this period, I was incredibly motivated. I was doing so much. I made 3 videos in this period, which is probably the best output I've ever had in the time that I've done anything like this. I kept the apartment clean. I've kept up to date with chores. I've been actioning things, but that has slowed down. But through this period, it was really good. And this 7-day, I talked about twice in videos that I've uploaded here on YouTube, and I also talked about it in some shorts and reels that I've uploaded on YouTube and Instagram. And it's a ridiculous feeling for me. But this 7 was an incredible moment to realise what I was feeling. To sit there and go, holy shit, actually I'm feeling something more than a 6. This is better than these days where I've had these 6s. It's 100% better. But yeah, so I haven't felt this 7 since, in my memory, my wedding day. And that is quite incredible to say, because I remember this feeling being so incredible. I don't think I'm going to forget this day. But in the days afterwards, I was then able to figure out more details about these feelings. So the 6 has now kind of evolved into, I understand what this general feeling of constant happiness is in that sense. And where I've rated these days more as 6s, there is a chance that in the previous 2 months, in this period here, maybe there would have been more 6s if I was able to identify this better. But at the same time, there's probably evidence there that I couldn't have felt those 6s more consistently, otherwise I would have known this difference. And next up, I want to talk about the 24th. The good mood streak comes to an end. So this was a period of 13 days where I had generally good mood. I was happy for a lot of that period, and I was feeling motivated. And then on the 24th, there is a triggering event that brings my mood down. And one thing I was worried about in this 13-day period where I was feeling incredibly good was the come down at the end, and if the source of my happiness was too reliant on something. And on the 24th, the good mood finishes. I finally have a day where I feel depressed again. That doesn't mean I haven't felt depression in this period. Like, I do get depressional moments in these days. Even on that 7th day, I had moments of depression. But overall, this was a day of depression. And I was having to deal with something, and it just wasn't very nice. But I think because it was a triggering event, it didn't hit me as hard. If I had maybe randomly just got depressed, then it might have been different. Then over these next couple of days, I felt depression. These last 2 days I felt okay. And I talked about this in a short that I made a few days ago. I think it was on the 25th that I made that short. But generally, dealing with that then come down, it's like a sobering feeling, knowing that, okay, my deeper problem is still here. The only thing that I will say is that because there was a triggering event, it doesn't make me feel as bad, because it's like, it's not just unexplainable. I know why I felt depressed those days, and that's a good thing, I would say. And then the mood has come up over the last couple of days. Next up, I'm going to have a sip of coffee. That could look really creepy. So, next up, let's talk about what I've done. How have I updated the mood tracker? So we can see there is a visual update. If you saw my mood tracker before, it wasn't as clear and nice as this. What I now track, as well as my mood, is my anxiety, which I've only got a few days here because it's a recent thing. So there was a couple of triggers for me wanting to update this. One, this period of good mood made me realise this isn't an effective way to display how my mental health is affecting me all of the time. By introducing anxiety, we're able to see a few things more, that like maybe there's a day where my anxiety is higher but my depression is not. I really wanted to show this. So the 23rd was when the triggering event for my lower mood happened, correctly? No? Oh no, that was the 24th. So the 23rd, what was my general anxiety? I can't remember what my general anxiety was that day. I think I do remember. I think it was a slightly personal thing. But this day, the 24th, the triggering event happens. I'm experiencing anxiety as well as depression. But the next day, I'm experiencing depression. So the 25th, depression. The 25th, no anxiety. I didn't have any anxiety. I had a very clear mind that day, I think. I was thinking quite calmly and confidently about things. So these ratings are a work in progress. So 0 is green, no anxiety, it's fine. 1 is some anxiety. I would class this as something that's like, you're anxious about going out in public or something. You don't really want to interact a little bit. You just maybe there's something going on that's making you feel a little bit uneasy. I'd say a 2 is where it's starting to physically affect you a bit more. Maybe you're doing less tasks or something. Maybe it's crippling you in that sense, or maybe you're having a conversation with somebody and you're really worried about how that conversation is going to go. We've then got a 3 and a 4. Now that's as high as I've got it rating right now. I would say like these 3s and 4s are probably going to be where you start to be non-functional. It's a little bit difficult for me to rate it clearly right now because I haven't experienced these kind of days in this short period that I've been tracking it, and I can't really remember these feelings all that well over this period that I've got blanked out. I probably have felt freeze in this period this year, which would be more evidence to why I need to track my anxiety, because, I haven't exactly had that much of a depression this year overall, which is a good thing to say. I'm happy to say that, despite this period here where I've been very depressed. But there is a good chance that there was some threes around here and a lot more ones and twos overall. So yeah, that's that with the ratings. They are subject to change. I will update them, and as as I become more clear on these things, I will probably explain it a bit more and talk about it in a video. Then if we scroll down, we have stress. I wanted to track stress because I realized in this period, immediately after I had talked about anxiety, or like I wanted to put some anxiety tracking, I realized that stress and anxiety do feel very different. And this date, the 25th, was the second day of depression here. I rated here that I didn't have anxiety, but I was very stressed. I was quite stressed over something, and it then made me realise that tracking anxiety also isn't an adequate way of showing things, because stress is a huge factor towards how you feel and how you deal with certain situations. It can have even quite intense physical effects on you. This, I also don't know where the ratings will go, but in general, I used a similar rating system to the anxiety. I can't really clarify these that well, but I feel like a 1 would be isn't as intense as what I felt on the 25th. I felt like quite stressed on the 25th, so that's why I've got that as a 2. No stress for the last couple of days, which is a good thing. A life without stress is kind of what everyone wants, right? So, then, the next thing to talk about with how I've expanded it, alcohol consumption. So this is just a yes or a no rating. I'm not going to rate it with how much alcohol I've consumed. I don't want to put that kind of pressure on me. But because I'm not drinking as much right now, it's easy for me to note how much I drank on these days. 24th, if I check the calendar, was Tuesday. That was the depression day. We can see here 24th was when my depression hit, and I drank that evening. I remember I had a couple of whiskey colas and some wine. Way more than I probably needed. I didn't get crazy drunk, but I got a little bit tipsy, let's say. And it's not good. I didn't feel good about that. And I think that you can see is maybe it's a correlation as to the fact that I felt depressed the following day. So I drank because I had a low mood, and I had low mood the next day, maybe because I drank. But this is why I want to track this, because you can then see another day. So the 20th, if we have a look at the mood for the 20th, I was a 6. And I drank that day. And the next day I was a 5. So I drank because of good mood, and I still had a generally decent mood the next day. But the difference is here that I didn't drink much. I went for a walk with a friend, and if you're from or you've been to Berlin, then you know it's quite common that that people will go for a walk with friends and they'll drink a beer or something on the way. That's what happened there. I had a couple of drinks, that was it. Nothing too strong, and yeah. 20th, had a couple of drinks, not much. Didn't really affect me. Probably not enough to affect the mood. Not like that anyway. Then the 13th. Let's have a look at the 13th. See, this is where it's important that I'm tracking this, because the 13th I drank. I know exactly what happened over these few days. This is the period where the triggering event for good mood happened, and I was very happy the following days on both of these things. So on the 11th I drank, and then on the 12th I had good mood. I had a 6 that day. 13th I drank, and on the 14th I had good mood. So what this would probably show, I probably had anxiety on those days and not depression. It's difficult for me to remember that far back for anxiety, that's why I haven't tracked it. But it probably shows that I had anxiety on those days. So as we get further into the future, we will see a pattern here. We will start to see patterns. Whether alcohol is a result of depression or anxiety, or if it's a cause for either of those things. And it'll be good to see that, to learn within myself how much is alcohol actually affecting my mental health when I drink it. The other thing I'm tracking now as well is exercise. So I haven't refined in my head what I will clarify as doing exercise. The thing is that I'm in recovery from an operation, so I'm doing general exercises for my abdominal muscles to, one, regain flexibility, and two, to build up strength again. But I'm also doing exercises to build up strength in my legs, my arms, and my shoulders again. But it's not that intense. So the thing is in general, on a lot of these days, if I'm going for long walks, say that day where I met up with my friend and I had a couple of drinks, we walked a long way. And that was quite a workout for me. I felt exhausted when I got back, and I don't think I've really fully recovered. But then I've had like physiotherapy, I've then done cardio a couple of times, and doing general workouts. Then I had a rest day yesterday. And today I probably need to do it, but we'll see, because my body is still kind of aching a little bit. But I wanted to do this because exercise is meant to produce dopamine. And yeah, there's probably a correlation in this period that, you feel good. But at the same time, if we look here, 24th for the 25th, I did exercise those days, and I was still depressed. How was the anxiety on those days? 24th for the 25th, I had high anxiety, I had no anxiety. So one of the reasons I want to track this is because you get told a lot when you go through depression that exercising is a big thing, and it is to an extent, but what this is showing is that it's not the solution. I want to keep documenting this to kind of like show that, or like at least maybe showcase that a little bit. Getting out, getting sunlight, yes. Doing exercise, yes. Not drinking, yes. Positive affirmations, these kind of things, they can improve things, they can help you cope with depression, but they're not solutions. They can complement recovery, they can complement that bettering of your mental state, but they're not the solution. What I need is therapy. I need therapy, and it's difficult to get. Exercise is not the solution, but I still want to track it because it can have an effect on my mood, and maybe also we'll see that when I have good mood I'm more likely to exercise, or maybe I have high anxiety and I exercise. We'll see. This is early stages on these things. That's all of the current updates. What do I want to continue to update it with though? One thing I think that would be really good to show: how I feel when I wake up, how I feel when I'm going to bed. Because this is just the general mood across the day. I could wake up as a 4 and go to bed a 6. I would like to do that. It's not exactly something I know how to do with this. I'm just literally using Google Sheets, so I don't know how I can do that. I would like to create an application for it, but I don't have the ability to. So yeah, I would like to track this deeper. I think this is showing my general mood across the day, but it's not showing how I felt when I woke up and how I felt when I go to bed. And I think they can be quite important influences to talk about. Here, I don't think I'm going to expand this at all. I think anxiety and stress are two things. They go hand in hand, or like they can kind of be put together, because I think they either have like a similar impact or a similar feeling sometimes, but they are distinctively different. But I feel like they kind of come under the same bracket. The behaviour, I don't think there's anything else I should expand. Especially, I don't take narcotics like drugs, like marijuana. I don't smoke. I don't do anything else like that, so I'm not going to track that because personally that's not relevant to me. Another thing that somebody mentioned in a comment was to do with the weather, and I do think weather can have an impact. It is important to note what the weather maybe was like on those days, especially if it was sunny, or if there's a particular weather type you like that gives you a good mood. But I haven't figured out how I could track that in this format effectively and make it easy to read and make sense. So that is something I will work on in the future. I haven't thought of anything else that I could potentially expand this with right now. Yeah, I don't think I will expand on other things. Maybe if you have a suggestion, just tell me in the comments down below, and I will think about it. It will go into my head, and I will think about it. So the last thing I want to talk about, and this kind of expands on this thing that I would like the mood tracker to be expanded internally here, like to show that I woke up as a 4, throughout the day I was a 6, but I went to bed as a 5. Today I woke up feeling okay, like I woke up as a 5, 100%, but as I've started to get into the day and I've started to do things, I've become a 4. And throughout this video, it fluctuates. It's too complicated to just. I'm not going to look into my mood every second of the day, but notably, I do feel overall a 4 today. I am depressed today, and that might not come across because I'm like, I'm able to laugh or smile or talk like this. I'm motivated to do this video. I'm making this right now, but yeah, today I'm a 4, and there's also something I'm looking forward to today. I'm going to do something I like today, but I'm still depressed. And I think it's important to make people aware of that, because I've had these days where I'm talking about, like, I'm having such a good time, I'm happy, I'm feeling really good, motivated, confident. Today I'm motivated, today I do feel like I can do things, but I am depressed. I don't feel good, and it's such a complicated thing to try and depict and explain, and that's why I'm expanding the mood tracker and why I want to keep expanding it, and why I would love to develop like some kind of app to talk in depth, or like to track in depth what it is, what these feelings are and how they affect you in a day-to-day life, or just kind of give you some evidence of what might be affecting you in a day-to-day life, because it's just so deep, it's so complicated, and I'm studying myself constantly right now, and I'm enjoying it. It's nice, but yeah, I have to talk about when things are low and when they're high, and today I'm low. That's kind of all I have to say on that. I've probably gone off on a tangent there by accident. Improve storytelling, yes. Damn it. But yeah, if this might be a long video. We'll see after I edit it down. If you got this far, if you've watched this far, thank you for watching. If you've watched at all, you won't see me saying thank you if you haven't made it this far. So, well, thank you and goodbye.